Welcome to Bamford Rose and it's classified chat time. This edition is V8 Vantage, so this is 4.3, 4.7, leading up to Vantage S, N430 and the AMR cars. Watch our question of the week from yesterday, which was, what should I buy, a 4.3 or 4.7 V8 Vantage? And this will help explain some of the driving dynamic differences between the two cars to help you make your decision. The list of endless positives that you can say about the V8 Vantage literally can never stop. Surely, as years turn into decades, this is going to go down as the greatest car ever made. It's certainly one, if not the most beautiful car ever made. I'll always defy anyone to pick an angle at which the car looks wrong, odd, or not quite right. It's impossible. The only criticism that you could do is if you cupped your hands into a circle and then just looked at the side repeater. That side repeater is quite literally lifted from a Transit. But as soon as you take one step back from zooming in on that side repeater, you get to see the glorious side strake, wing, grille and the rest of the lines which make up the Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Not only being drop dead gorgeous, it also ticks pretty much every box you could want a car to. If you pick one of the more sportier versions or you evolve your V8 Vantage, it's gonna fulfill that 3-hour exhilaration drive on a Sunday afternoon. If you want to cruise to the south of France from the UK in it, it's going to be a really competent, comfortable, long-distance GT cruiser. If you want to daily drive it, you can. It's a really easy to get on with daily driver's car. Put some decent tyres on it, put some better brake pads on it, take it around a track, ticks that box too. And at this moment in time, it also ticks the value for money box. Have you seen what starting prices for V8 Vantage are these days? Before we talk about V8 Vantage and the different models and the cut-off prices for each one, I'm going to pick a star of this week's show. And after a trawl of the classifieds, my star is this absolutely gorgeous 2007 4.7 Vantage S. It's finished in Toro red with contrasting stitching, black leather interior, bucket sport seats. Okay, its mileage is a little bit higher than average, but at 50k, then there's still plenty of life left in this V8 Vantage. All that for £44,990. But we'll start our look at the classifieds at a 4.3 V8 Vantage. So this is your 2005 to 2008 V8 Vantage, 4.3, 380 bhp car. Privately, they're probably starting around the £22,500 mark, £25,000 mark. And from the trade, probably starting at the £27,500 mark. Now, I've picked our first starting point at this private sale 4.3 V8 Vantage, 2006 car with 17,000 miles on. And whilst there are many other cars available at a lower price than this one, I've selected our journey at this car to start here because it's low owner, low miles. A lot of 4.3s for sale from private owners are showing upwards of 50, 60, 70, 80,000 miles. And for approximately £4,000 or £5,000 more, this car is going to feel a heck of a lot newer and it's going to look a lot crisper and fresher. But for a 4.3 V8 Vantage at the starting price of about 22,500 up to 30,000, then you really do have the pick of the market. There's lots for sale. As these cars get older, as the mileage increases, those pesky used car salesmen do not want their bottom line eaten into. So you often find that the warranty, even from trade sales, really isn't worth the paper it's written on. There's a maximum claim limit. There are some things that it doesn't cover. So starting at the lower end of the market, I would go private. I would check the fundamentals are okay, get the car for the cheapest price you possibly can, and then just repair stuff along the way if you need to. If you check that the fundamentals are okay, then fingers crossed you shouldn't really get bitten by anything that's going to be catastrophic to recover. We then go to the 2008-2009 4.7 update. Obviously there's the engine bhp increase from 380 to 410. The emotional control glass key star dynamics dampers were gone, and on the 4.7 it's Bilstein. Dashboard had a little bit of a revamp, some more modern knobs and buttons, depends which style you like. It's interesting that today's scan of the market doesn't show a 4.3 for sale at a franchise dealer. Perhaps they're too old now for a franchise dealer, or perhaps on this Auto Trader site I was looking at, then franchise dealers haven't advertised the 4.3, but they are for sale on their forecourts. The crossover of 4.3 to 4.7 and then 4.7 to Vantage S, and then very young 4.7s to Vantage S and AMR cars is an interesting crossover, like all crossovers that exist between Aston's range, for example DB 9.2 to DBS, and ultimately N430 to say a V12 Vantage. But in terms of this review of V8 Vantage, then go check out my closing statement of the question of the week from yesterday, where I draw a few examples of what would be some good points and what would be some caution points about going for each model at a crossover. So this is a very good entry point at 4.7 at £32,950 with a car that's showing 37,000 miles. So really, anything upwards of 32.5 should be getting you in the seat of a 4.7. But here's one of the crossovers. It's a very late 4.3, 2008, up for £37,000 with 23,000 miles on the clock. It's obviously a beautiful colour, special edition N400, so this is a great car and you can take nothing away from it. But at £37,000, this is heavy money. Now, if you owned this car for, say, 3 to 5 years, putting 2,000 or 3,000 miles on it per year, then you'll no doubt stand to lose quite a bit come resale time on that car, compared to buying either a much cheaper 4.3 or getting yourself into a 4.7. The first 4.7 car that I found available at a dealer is starting at £40,000 and is showing 22,000 miles. For the same roadster, for the same mileage, for the same age, certainly from the pictures in the adverts, what looks to be the same top condition car. There are many equivalent cars to this for sale at generic resellers, not franchise dealer, therefore offering nowhere close the trimmings of buying from a franchise dealer, at the same if not more than this car. Proving time and time again whenever we do these classified chats, either go for the franchise dealer or save a ton of cash, go private, and you've got a kitty to put into repairs. The M420 was not really any significant special model. You know, it was treading on the toes of Vantage S, so its horsepower was kept a little bit lower than Vantage S and didn't have all of the extras that comes with Vantage S. So I don't really consider N420 that much of a special car, but I've just selected this one because at 40k for the 2011 N420 with 33,000 miles on the clock, then it just windows a 4.3. Now if you go and look, especially on some non-franchised resellers, they're trying to punt 4.3s out for this sort of money. So it just shows you that be careful of those cars, because for the same money out in the wider marketplace you can get what is in all intents and purposes a much better car. Now I've selected this because it's from franchise dealer, so you get good after sales care, but also because it's 9,800 miles, so it's practically new, for £52,000. Now okay, over the coming years this car is going to depreciate, and probably in another 3 to 5 years this car will be down at £35,000. But what you're paying for here is the newness of that car, and across those years enjoying that newness. So if we take 4.3, which private sale is starting at 22.5, 25, and going up all the way until low mid 30s, then we've got a 4.7 which is starting off low to mid 30s. Our next cutoff is Vantage S, and we come back to the car that I chose as a star of the show, and typically from what I've seen on the marketplace, the Vantage S starting point is £46,000. We then come to arguably one of my most favourite Astons ever made, which is the N430. It's my favourite because it is everything that was good about the V8 Vantage chassis, evolved to perfection. The sports interior, the exhaust note, Everything about this car is just perfect. Late 50s seems to be the entry point for these privately. Getting close to the end of the model range, and this is one that I'd express caution about buying. Obviously, you know, it's a cracking looking car, the mileage is low, but it's a 4.7, it's not N430, it's not an AMR car, yet it's up for close on £65,000. This is going to plummet in value very quickly. You'd be buying this car because you just want to experience the near newness of it over a few years of your ownership, but it's going to be a pretty heavy price to pay. The factory also costed down the car at this point, you know, so it's not got the twin piece bell mounted disc, it's got a co-cast disc which overheat if you stress them, and it's got the touch sensitive dash in, which I'm not a fan of at all. I'd prefer analog. At the top end of the V8 Vantage chassis market, we have the swan song, which was the AMR cars. If you're going to have one of these, then why not go all out? It's practically brand new at 5,000 miles from franchise dealer, £85,000. We've evolved a few of these, and with lightweight flywheel, twin plate clutch and exhaust manifolds and catalyst, this is an absolute sports car, an absolute enthralling, fantastic drive. In the AMR version, I actually prefer the look of the touch sensitive dash, but again, as good as this car is, there are V12 Vantage S out there for this money. Or there's a 2010 V12 Vantage manual out there for 20k cheaper. But there's no getting away from this being an absolutely gorgeous car. I hope you found that review of the V8 Vantage market interesting, and it's certainly going to be interesting to keep an eye on those price thresholds, starting points, brackets, crossover to different models, and analyse it in the future and have a look at what's going on in the marketplace and pricing trends. Hope you like that classified chat, and we'll see you in the next one.